afternoon. Scott Paul here with you at the new 95.5 FM Classic Hits the Hawk. And it's time for Behind the Mic. And with us today, we've got Dean Leatherman. Dean, sorry about that.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
there you go. It's like that commercial on TV.
We're in sync now.
There we go.
Got the delay put away. We won't need that for this.
Well, I won't be saying anything that would need a delay.
Well, I appreciate that.
I hope so.
And again, you're a master gardener.
Yes, sir.
Are you gonna be at the Home and Garden Show this week?
Yes, I'm doing a presentation. It's the same presentation that I'm giving today, and that's at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning.
Very cool. And what are you presenting?
It's on native plants, and people run into this quite a bit. They've got yards full of weeds, but a lot of those weeds are pretty, you know what I mean? And it's like, I wish I could cultivate those, and what are they, and is there different, do I need to buy those in the store, do I dig them out of the ground? You know, one of the big questions people have is, what are native plants? And that's one of the things we'll briefly talk about. And then, why use native plants? Is there some problem I have that, you know, these plants would actually have a benefit, like septic tanks? What do I plant around a septic tank that will live? And what's involved in growing native plants? Are they ornery, or, you know, is there something special I need to know? And that's kind of the things I want to cover today. It's very brief. When people think of native plants, the word indigenous is used. It's a big word that means it belongs here. Strictly speaking, people think this is, it evolved here. You know, that plant evolved here. Well, you know, the settlers came in. They had a lot of plants they brought with them from Europe, and basically a lot of those liked it here. And a lot of those are the ones we see today. They use them for dyes and, you know, herbs and medicine. So when they talk about native plants in this area, if it's thriving and it's not invasive, that's considered a native plant. Now, invasive, you know, you get the DNR, Department of Natural Resources, and the Extension Service real excited when you use the word invasive. If it's like there's some honeysuckles they're having problems with, and the tree of life, and there's a lot of plants that you can buy them in a box store. Well, actually not anymore, but they are invasive. They'll take over your yard, your neighbor's yard, and those are kind of bad things.
Isn't like the typical example kudzu?
Kudzu, and I spent 18 years in North Carolina, and I know about kudzu.
People around here maybe don't know, but kudzu is like this vine-type plant that just takes over. Yeah, they would burn a field down, and there would be two old houses in there. I never knew there were two old houses in there. So it's like they just cover everything. So, you know, as far as you know, why grow native plants? People have a lot of problems in their yard. You know, they have, like, one of the best example, and Purdue has a good app note on this, application note, is the septic tank. What kind of things that are native, and with native things, you get a lot of resilience. They'll survive the minus 25 degree winters. You know, they survive the deep snow. You don't have to fertilize them, water them. If you can, you know, form up a nice bed of them with some, you know, some mulch, they're low maintenance free, low cost. And, you know, like a septic tank, what do I do with it? There's a lot of different, you know, plants you can use around a septic tank to hide the riser. Those, you know, those little green strips in your yard that grow grass so tough you can make baskets out of them, you know, those kind of things. And those are kind of solutions that Purdue has documentation to give people to educate them on how to handle those problems. And for plants that, you know, you want to find, there's kind of a problem with me. I look on the internet, I'm like, what does this thing look like? A lot of sites you look at and they're like, oh, you know, they have lists and lists of scientific names, which really don't do anything for me, even though I'm involved with the horticulture part. And then they have common names, and my grandmother maybe knew all the common names. I haven't a clue. I need mug shots. You know, I need to see what the picture looks like. Is it low to the ground? Does it have flowers? You know, is it viney? And there's a site. It's called InPaws, and the way I remember that, some kind of a memory device is like paws on a cat or dog, paws, P-A-W-S. And in Indiana, the first part is I-N. So you combine the two, it's like I-N, P-A-W-S, and it's a .org creature. So if you just type that in, you get a site that is, Purdue points to it off of a lot of their documentation. They don't sponsor it, but they actually, you know, say it's an external reference. And it has a lot of information about native plants. That's pretty much all they do. And it gives you hints about the kinds that are available and the suppliers and the quality you can expect. And they kind of regulate their suppliers. They say, you know, you won't be able to advertise on our site if you sell honeysuckle, you know, or the tree of life, you know, things of that nature. So they kind of are self-policing, and it's a very good site. And again, that's the website for the Indiana Native Plant and Wildflower Society.
Exactly.
Which is where they get InPaws from.
Yes.
INPAWS.org.
Thank you for that. Yes, I've talked to them and asked them permission to use their information, and they're happy to do so. So as far as, you know, when you're trying to make choices, and there's so many, when you sit down, it's like, oh, there's so many, what do I do? You kind of have to focus. You have to have a focus. You got a dry spot or wet spot, or you got a spot that's shady, or like you're like me on the south side of the house, they have yellow siding, and you could bake bricks out there. And it's like, what do you grow there? It's clay, because, when they build a house, they take all this topsoil, bury it 4 feet under, and put nice, good clay on top. So, what can you grow there? And their site has a lot of information about, things that will grow in clay soil, low water, low maintenance. And they're kind of, in that case, what I'm talking about, they're mainly kind of low ground cover creatures. So, they're kind of easy to maintain. It's not dirt, it gives it some green. And that's kind of what people want for some of their solutions.
Sure.
For the problems they have in their yard and, and around. I'll give you an example. When you use native plants, butterflies, monarchs. This is something I didn't know until recently. I went through the Master Gardener program and learned this. They basically live around the cycle of the milkweed, that common milkweed that you grew up with. Has a fairly nice flower on it. Most people don't really think of planting it as something in their yard. But if you don't have milkweeds, you don't have monarchs, or you have very few. So if you plant a stand in a piece of your yard that's out back, you usually mow it, but this year you want to save gas, you know what I mean? Go ahead and plant milkweed out there, and you'll have monarch butterflies everywhere.
So there is actually a value to wild plants, please.
It increases. They use that as a habitat, and you get an increase in basically a lot of the wilderness that comes into your, the wildlife comes into your lot, and the butterflies and different kinds of, colorful creatures will come in, and things that weren't there. Hummingbirds are just, they love milkweeds for one thing too.
Very cool.
So, in general, that's the kind of thing that, these topics that I'm going to be covering on Sunday. What are the native plants, and why use them? Are they solving a problem, or is it just something that I really wouldn't be interested in? And what's involved in growing these? Where do I put them? I'm totally not a gardener. How do I do this? In fact, native plants are so carefree. They've been here for 10,000, 100,000 years. We haven't been fertilizing them or watering them, and they're still here year after year. So that kind of tells you that that's a good segue for gardening, to get into gardening with it. Easy to grow, easy to maintain plant that's basically native.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. If you have trouble growing things, just grow what would grow there naturally.
Exactly. It's growing across the field, so you can't take too much credit. The same stuff that's in my yard, but it's growing really well.
Some of them are beautiful.
Oh, definitely.
We get a lot of lilies, those day lilies around the lake. And I think those are just the prettiest flowers.
Most people tend to consider those native, but they were brought in. But I'm like, they're not invasive, and they're here year after year, and you don't need to do anything with them. So, it's like, plus, if you go to the state parks, a lot of times if they moved people to make the state park, there used to be a house there, so it's got all kinds of lilies, So that's one thing you tend to see when you go to state parks. So.
And again, INPAWS, INPAWS.org. Any other websites people should know about?
If you go to Google and you just type in native plants, you'll get 5 million hits. And you're like, oh my gosh, what do you do here? And that's the classic problem with search engines. But on Google, if you go over there and you right underneath the search button, on your first search, type in native plants, hit search. It'll come up with 5 billion hits. Over there underneath the search button is advanced search. Underneath that, click on that. A whole bunch of boxes will come up. Just ignore those. Don't freak out. At the bottom box, just type in the INPAWS.org. or type in Purdue.edu, and it will filter those to sites on INPAWS or Purdue, and you can basically filter all those other little sites out.
Very good. And again, you're listening to Behind the Mic. We're talking with Master Gardener Dean Leatherman, and again, you'll be out at the Home and Garden Show Sunday morning
11 o'clock on Sunday. Yeah, there's
very good.
They say my name's Julie, but it's actually Dean. So.
Well,
don't call me Shirley. Don't.
Done that.
There you go.
And anything else you want to tell the folks while you got their attention?
That's pretty much, except Purdue has an extensive line of documentation, and if you go to the Purdue site and just type in, documentation extension service, you'll get a lot of gardening information that's free to use, and it's very easy to read and understand. I've been reading it for years, and that's why I took the Master Gardener classes. I was tired of reading it, and I wanted to go talk to the guys who wrote it, and that's one of the things that got me involved.
Very good. And thanks again for being with us today. Sorry
Thank you.
again about the,
that's fine.
The troubles.
I hope I didn't say anything that would require a delay.
No, you were fine. And again, you've been listening to Behind the Mic. This is the show where we have local people on the air talking about things going on locally, things you might want to know about.